Hey everybody, I'm Garcia, and today I'm taking a look at the latest game from Saashi and Saashi called Let's Make a Bus Route. In this game, the players are going to be taking turns drawing lines on this board here, using those lines to connect specific locations, to pick up passengers, take them where they want to go. Basically, just move around the city in order to score the highest score possible and see if they can win the game after 12 rounds. Let me give you a look at how this all works. We're going to go to the table, and then we'll come back up here, and I'll tell you what I think of this one. To set up the game, each player is going to be given one of these boards here. You are going to shuffle up and set two goals into play. You are going to pick a starting spot out of two possibilities that you are given. So let's say, for instance, I am going to start here at the number 3 traffic light. You circle the spot where you are starting, and then someone is given the start player token here. You are also given a random goal, route planning goal, which lists 3 locations on the board that you are hoping to connect for some extra victory points. I'll set that aside for now and come back to it later. And then you are pretty much ready to begin. You shuffle these up, set them there, and you're good to go. The game's going to last 12 rounds. You are trying to score the highest score possible over those 12 rounds by being careful and smart with your route building. And so, during the first round, we are going to reveal one of these cards. That card is going to denote a color. That color, it tells me on my board how that route is going to be played onto the board. And I do want to mention each player's board is different. So it's the same kinds of lines, just mixed around. So my red will be different from my opponent's red, and so on. So for me, red is a single tick. And so what that means is I would mark this here to let me know, hey, red came up once, and then starting from my start location, I would draw a line. In this case, I can go in any direction I want to. So I might go this way. Once I get to something, I'm going to mark that on my board. So in this case, I picked up an elderly passenger. I'm going to mark that I picked up one elderly passenger there on the board. And once that's done, I would check if I qualify for either one of the goals in play. In this case, I need 5 elderly passengers picked up. In this case, 5 laborers picked up. I don't have either one of those things, of course, so my opponent will take their turn now. And so we look here. Let's say that my opponents, by the way, began their round over here at 11, let's say. So that's where they began. And red for them, they would mark this off, is a two-line drawing, and it has to turn after the first one. And so what they're going to do is they're going to go here and pick up a tourist there, mark that off on their board that they picked up a tourist right there, and then they'll go ahead and go down this way and pick up a laborer and mark that off as well on their board. I'll tell you how everything scores in just 1 second. Once that's done, again, they check if they qualify for either one of those goals. We pass this to the next player, and then we reveal the next card, which tells us our new movement pattern, and then the players will draw on the board what that movement pattern entails. So, let's talk about the movement patterns real quick. So the first one here, in this case, blue, it's 2 lines. I can do whatever I want with them. I can just never, and this is across the board, double back on my own line or go to the same place twice. So blue, 2 spaces. Red for me here is a single space. Green is 3 in a straight line. Black is 3, and I must turn after each. It doesn't matter how I turn. It does not have to be that shape specifically, but I must turn after each block. Purple here is 2 straight, and orange is 2, and I must turn after the first one somehow. Again, not exactly that shape, but I must turn. The scoring for each of the different aspects is as follows. So over here I have tourists. I am going to, every time I approach one, I will pick them up. I will mark off a tick on my board. And then when I take them somewhere they want to go to, which is either these gates or these buildings here, the temples, then I'm going to score in the square next to that the value above how many of them I picked up. So I picked up 2, I would get 5 victory points if I get to a place they want to go to. And then any further passengers I pick up, or tourists rather, they are going to start marking in the row below that. If I take 4, and before I score this, I would take any more, I don't pick them up, I cannot carry them. And if I ever visit one of these places with no passengers, I also do nothing for that. The laborers over here are trying to get to the train stations. They work much like these passengers here, these tourists. So if I mark 1, and then let's say later on I pick up another one, I would write, once I take them to any of these train stations, 4 victory points there, and I'll start working on the next line down. If it's just 1, that's 2 victory points. If it's 2 passengers, it's 4 victory points, and I get an elderly. If it's 3, which is the maximum, 6 victory points, and a tourist. And I would mark that here or here, respectively. And then I start working on the next line. These down here are students. Every time I pick up one of them, I simply mark it in. Every time I pass by a university, I mark one of them. That only scores at the end of the game. I'm going to multiply these times these for my final score. The elderly I'm picking up in town are simply a cumulative amount. So if at the end of the game I have picked up 5 of them, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 victory points down here. Besides all of that, I might also get the bonuses. As soon as I qualify for one, I would write it in. So let's say I get my 5 elderly. I'd write in 10 victory points there, and then I flip this card over. For anybody else who completes it after me, they get fewer points. And then the last one here, so bonus 1, bonus 2, the last bonus there is my original connection bonus. So this one, if at the end of the game I've connected all 3 of those locations listed there, that's 10 victory points. Let's say I did that, but I did not get the second bonus, then my total there would simply be 20. And then over here are 2 areas I have to concern myself with. So this first one lets me break these rules. Every time I should go straight and I turn, I am going to take a penalty for that. Or every time I should turn and instead choose to go straight, I'll also take a penalty. For however many of those I take, I'm going to add them up, and that's a penalty I take at the end of the game. And then over here, for every time I draw a line on the board that goes through a location that my opponent has gone through, so once I do that, then I am going to create traffic. And I would mark on my board one of these buses around the outside. At the end of the game, if I created no traffic whatsoever, meaning I did not go over a previously drawn line from another player, then I am going to get a bonus 3 points. However, if I'm the one who created the most traffic, I'm going to lose victory points depending on the number of players. In a 2-player game, I would lose 3 victory points there. And so that's all of the scoring right there. And now you understand pretty much everything that's going on the board. The only thing I have not talked about is the traffic lights themselves. They're starting positions for you, but also if you ever end a turn on one, so let's say I draw a card and I get a purple, right? We flip this over and it's a purple card. I'm here. I would go 1, pick up an elderly. I would go 2, and I end on a traffic light. I have to move 1 extra space. Any direction I want to, but I move 1 extra space. So it lets me move around the board a little more effectively. You have to be careful in the game that you don't close yourself off into a bad spot, because you're going to have a hard time getting out of that. It's even possible, though very, very unlikely, that you will be eliminated if you cannot work your way out of somewhere that you get locked into. But that's pretty much it. Some of the locations around the outside feature 2 symbols, so you would get 2 things. They're far away from the action in the center of the board. But other than that, you now understand how everything works. The goals here, there's a few different ones. So you've got those 2. If you visit those places, you would get 10 victory points. If you pick up 5 students, 3 of those. If you pick up 5 tourists, and the different cards that you'll have for bonuses are equally varied, where they'll show you different locations, and you have to try to have them all meet up on your route. that's everything there is to it. It's a fairly straightforward game. It's only 12 rounds, like I said. You will play through all the cards, and you'll be marking them off to let you know what's coming up, what's left in the deck, and you can properly plan for that. So, let's go back up top. Let me tell you what I think about this route building game. Alright, so that is let's make a bus route or a bus route. One of those two. You can pick the one you want to see. So here we go. I'm going to kick it off with thematic ties. Is the theme original? Is it well implemented? Absolutely, especially well implemented. Everything in the game makes sense. Why do you pick these people up? You need to take them somewhere. If your space on the bus is full, you can't pick up any more people. If you go by a place and don't have people to drop off, you don't score anything. The idea of hitting the green lights and then being able to move an extra space. You got lucky with the traffic pattern, you hit a green light. The idea of creating traffic is really cool. Having to go through a place where other players have gone through creates traffic, and it was your fault, so you mark that off on your board. The whole thing works beautifully from a thematic point of view. The aesthetics of the game, component quality, is the artwork congruent? Does it look good? Artwork's nice. There's a lot of symbology. The board certainly looks a little bit busy. When you first look at it, it's going to look like there's a ton going on it, but that feeling goes away very soon, so it should not be a problem. Even when you are playing with a full complement of players, it's a little busy on the board, the look of everything, but it's not too bad. The replayability, does the game scale well? Are there new things to discover and so on? I think it does scale well. What you are doing in the game, the penalty for having the most traffic created adjusts to the number of players. And while again, my only issue with it would be that it could be a little busy, especially if players don't follow the advice in the rulebook and draw over the locations, which you should not do. Just draw the line to it and then start on the other side from it. Definitely do that. But so besides the fact that it can look a little bit busy, the game has a neat feeling every time you play. The only things that are going to change from play to play are, for example, your secret goal, sort of the things you end up doing, the order in which your routes come up, meaning, okay, I have to draw 3 in a row right away. Like, that's the first one that gets flipped, so I need to start off that way. Unless I immediately want to take those penalties and deviate from the traffic, which you can also do. But there's engagement and interest every time you play this one. So I like that. The game length, does it stay interesting the whole time? Does the game become repetitive? I think it's good. 12 rounds is just right. You can usually make it to, if you're going for it, you can connect your 3 locations just by the skin of your teeth sometimes. I like that you have to decide what you go for. You cannot do it all. You cannot have a great student and school score and get all the elderly people picked up and get your locations, all 3 connected. You can't really do it all. So at some point you have to change from, I was trying to go for this. Instead now, let me just try to pick up these passengers as much as I can. Oh, I got to get over there and drop them off for a nice payout. I like that. That's there's a lot there going on, but you do it all in 12 rounds and then the whole thing's over. So it definitely does not outstay its welcome. The ease of play, is it fiddly? Are the rules easy to understand? Is it easy to teach? I would say certainly the different ways of scoring are neat, but there's not so many that it becomes confounding. And the theme is going to go a long way towards helping you teach the game. It really does make sense what you are doing in the game. You cannot go over your own route. That's not necessarily sensical, but it's a one rule you need to remember that's not thematic maybe, and everything else sort of falls into place nicely. I like that very much. The tactics and strategy as our last talking point. Is the game too lucky? Does it feel balanced? Are there interesting choices? The flip of the cards is random, but my locations and what orange means to me, for example, is different than what orange means to you. That's going to create variability right off the bat, but we are going to see all the cards. So there will be 2 orange cards that come up, 2 purple cards, and so on. So I have to adjust for that. And as the game goes on, I mark them off so I know what's left. And that's also important. It lets me plan towards the end of the game, the last few rounds. I can see kind of where I might end up, assuming I don't want to take any penalties, right? And as far as interesting choices, I think there are a lot of them. It's a game that's very simple to play, very simple to teach, but you have a lot of interesting choices. Not just what you go for with the scoring, but are you comfortable with creating traffic? Are you going to be the one with the most? If you're not, you're good, especially in a larger group of players. So if you're playing with 4 people, let's say, and someone over there across the table has, 7 of those little buses marked off, you're good to take a few, because you won't be the one with the most. That's the trick. You just don't want to be the one with the most. Now, yes, if you create any, you don't get that bonus for 0 traffic, but that's okay. You can sort of play between those 2 extremes. And when you choose to take a penalty, what you choose to focus on, there's a lot of reacting and a lot of fun little choices that compound over the short play length of the game to make something engaging, gripping, attractive, just fun. You feel like you are playing kind of a roll and write game without the rolling part, and you are drawing. It feels like you are playing, and I mean that in both senses of the word, playing a board game, but also just playing with a toy. And this game manages to bring that out in people. It certainly does in me. So I like it very much. I think it's a neat game. I am yet again surprised by Saashi and the great games that they are coming out with. This is definitely a company that you should keep your eye on. They have made trick-taking games. They have made this game a connection game now. They made a really great solitaire game. They have done an interesting just swath of games, about 5 published games or so now, but I am always excited about what's coming up next. So this one for me gets a seal of excellence. I would recommend, if you can get your hands on it and you enjoy this style of play, that you seek it out, get yourself a copy. I think you are going to be happy with it. That is Let's Make a Bus Route, and I'm Z Garcia. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.